This week, the Congressional Budget Office, released its updated score of the Republican health care plan. It estimates 23 million Americans will lose their coverage over the next decade. I want to bring in Haley Byrd, congressional reporter at the Independent Journal Review. Haley, it's great to see you. I want to talk to you about this. Did anyone really reach a consensus here? Because it sure doesn't seem like all of the House Republicans, and certainly not in the Senate, are enthusiastic about this bill.
Hi, Jacob. Thanks for having me on. That is a good question to ask. And as we saw with a lot of House Republicans reacting to the CBO score, many of them were quick to discount the CBO's findings and to simply undermine and sort of cast doubts on what they did project. And I recall Speaker Ryan in his press conference the day after the score dropped pretty much flat out told us that he disagreed with certain findings that the CBO had related to pre-existing conditions and how individuals with those conditions will be affected by this mandate waivers for states that the Freedom Caucus fought for in this health care bill. So there still is some contention within the conference in answer to your question.
I got to ask you about this piece that you wrote earlier this week that got a lot of attention. It was fascinating to me, in which you described Congressman Mark Meadows, chairman of the Freedom Caucus, critical to this health care bill, actually tearing up as he talked about losing his dad and his sister to cancer. So why did that strike such a chord, do you think, with people?
It was interesting. I believe it was part of the timing was people were waiting for Meadows' reaction to the CBO score because it was the updated CBO score was doing the math for that amendment that Meadows did introduce to allow states to do waivers for the essential health benefits and for community ratings. And Meadows did have an emotional response, not exactly to the CBO score, I'd say. There were a lot of reports afterward that he had cried because of the CBO score. And I'd object to that sensationalist nature of those reports, and I never attempted to draw that connection. But he did have a response there, and I believe the tears, when he did tear up and when he was speaking with us afterward, was related to making sure people with pre-existing conditions do have enough money in those high-risk pools, that they're adequately funded. And it was just drawing that connection between his family. His sister died from breast cancer and his father of lung cancer. So it was, I viewed it as sort of pledging to do right by them. So I included a lot of Meadows' response because it was different than those of his Republican colleagues who were quicker to discount the CBO's analysis.
Yeah, and it certainly was, if I could just say quickly, Haley, 23 million people is certainly, going off healthcare is certainly something to tear up about. Unfortunately, Haley, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope to talk to you again soon. And
Thanks
for all
for
of you
me
at
on.
home, that wraps up this hour of MSNBC Live. I'm not going anywhere. Coming up next,